And in 1905, they decided to build the new school, and they built the east half of the old brick building that was here. And in 1921, that building was extended to make it an 8-room building. That building stood and served Elm Creek from 1921 until 1981, when it was closed and demolished. With its demolition, a lot of tears were shed. Many of us had fond memories of that old building. At this time, I'd like to call on Ms. Helen McKay to read a letter from...
When they removed this cornerstone, we were all quite excited because nobody knew if there was anything under it or not, and it turned out there was. And it included this poem that I'd like to, or this letter that I want to share with you. Elm Creek, August 16th, 1905. Future citizens of this place, greeting. This writer has been assigned the task of procuring something suitable to be deposited in this cornerstone. We enclose with this letter the first copy of the Elm Creek Mail, as well as a copy of later date. A short history of this new school would perhaps be appropriate. Our old school is situated on the north side of the railroad on the top of the hill. It is a frame building and has 2 rooms pretty well dilapidated and very cold. A vote was taken last spring to raise $10,000 by the issue and sale of debenture. This was carried, and as soon as plans could be prepared, tenders were asked for, and the contract was given to Mr. Matheson and Mr. A.R. Stevens, who were the lowest. It is expected that this school and furnishings will cost $12,000. The present school trustees are R.J. Wilson, Joseph Glenn, Chairman, Joe Rinn, Secretary-Treasurer. As is usual in a small town, the population being about 300, there was, of course, a good many different opinions as to the building of this school. This date, the Honorable Colin H. Campbell, Attorney General for Manitoba, will lay this stone, the 1905 that you see in here. The children from all the schools around will be on parade with the local lodges and other lodges. Our crops this season are fairly good. Wheat will average over 20 bushels per acre. Last year, for the first time, the crops were affected with black rust, but this year they do not appear to be rusted. We have in our town 3 elevators, 3 stores, 1 hotel, lumber yard, 1 blacksmith shop, 2 implement businesses, a drugstore, a butcher shop, a local paper, 2 hardware stores, a pool room, barber shop, livery barn, a veterinary hospital, and 4 daily passenger trains and 2 freight trains. The prairie land is worth $12 to $18 per acre. Improved farms are worth $20 to $35 per acre. We feel sorry that you people are not born sooner so that you could take advantage of this cheap land. There is considerable discussion at the present time, carried on by the Manitoba government, with the object of consolidating small schools into 1 large central school. Perhaps by the time you read this, that system will be the only one in vogue. We extend to you all the right hand of fellowship across this span of years. Yours truly, Mrs. W.J. Cook, and she wrote this August 16th, 1905. Thank you.
I welcome you to the Elm Creek Centennial celebration and unveiling of this cairn. A special welcome to the former Elm Creek School trustee. Many successful graduates have gone on from this school to prominent positions and occupations, such as teachers, doctors, lawyers, medical research, ministers, and successful farmers, and many other professions. I would like to mention names of former trustee members who served with me who are not with us anymore. Archie Jansen, Rule Watchorn, Delbert Meggs, and Arnold Campbell. I wish to thank the committee, the Centennial Committee for that, and many helpers for the tremendous job that they have done in according to making this celebration such a great success. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I was asked to make a comparison, if I am able to, between the visions of the older students compared to the ones of the latter day lately. And there are some comparisons, all right. It's quite different. But anyway, perhaps some of you at 60-odd years back would remember the songs that we were taught in the school. And the first one was first thing in the morning. And it went like this. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Do you remember? That's it. The words of another song, Manitoba, here we rise to greet you, Manitoba, our home. We love the sweet and rolling prairie and the hills which we roam. We breathe the heritage of freedom for which our faithful fathers stood. In the light for the right, in the law we know, one bond of brotherhood. For we all love our Manitoba, Manitoba, our home so dear. And we raise the strain of the waving grain, bring it out again, one chorus strong and clear. Wish you all a very happy Centennial for everyone here this weekend, and Godspeed home. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I feel honored to be chosen to say a few words here at the unveiling of the monument erected in the honor of the old school building. There are 4 generations of my family that attended this school and received education here. My great-grandmother, Jessie Cochran, attended school here. Between the years of 1905 to 1913, attending grades 1 to 8. Her daughter, my grandmother, Lorene Miller, attended school here from 1933 to 1945. Just before I came up here, Grandma says, please don't say the dates. It'll age me. She attended grades 1 to 11. My mom, Ann Lang, who's standing over there as well, she attended school here from 1955 to 1963 in grades 1 to 9 before she moved up to the new school building that was erected at the end of the street. Myself, I attended school here from the fall of 1976 to the winter of 1981 when we moved to the new school building, which was built adjacent to the high school. Between the 4 of us, we hold many memories of the old school building, the people who attended school here, and the staff that worked and taught there. Please, everyone, when you look at this new monument, close your eyes for just a moment and remember the time spent within the walls of the old school building. Thank you very much.
Still haven't grown since grade 6 either. 11 years ago, Elm Creek School still stood on this site. And at that time, I was a 6th grader in the school and thrilled to be moving up the road to the new Elm Creek Elementary School. But at the same time, I was sorry to leave what had been our home for so long. When I was asked to speak today, I immediately started to remember what our old school was like. I remember the very tall windows, climbing the endless flights of stairs, the real slate blackboards, the ringing of that handbell that marked the end of every recess and lunch hour, the tiny gymnasium in the basement, and standing on the stairs and in the hallways every day to sing O Canada. I've also thought a lot about other memories I have of Elm Creek School. It's easy to go back to the time when my biggest problem was learning the multiplication tables and my biggest joy was a 15-minute recess. I remember all the time spent in the old school as very happy times. The teachers were all our friends who sincerely cared about the education and well-being of each student. As your students, we saw and felt your compassion and desire to help us learn and grow, and for that we thank you. Many happy times were also created with classmates and friends in the school. Whether it was a field trip, lunchtime, or working together on class projects, there were always plenty of good times with friends. And today, as we mark the site of our old school, I realize that many of the things I remember about the school are gone. There no longer stands the big stone building with its long windows, real blackboards, and endless staircases. But the most important thing to realize is that some things will always remain. The happiness, friendships, the learning, and the spirit of our school and community will never die. The physical features have been gone a long time, but today we have come to celebrate the memories of our school together. It is my hope that our memories of Elm Creek School will remain in us and continue to bring us happiness long into the future. Thank you.
That's better. We've come to that point in our program where to listen to the person many of us have respected for a long period of time, a person who was out in the ball diamond every day at noon hour, it seemed. We knew when noon hour was over when he headed for the school, and then he emerged with this. And I'm sure that his fingerprints are probably still on it. I don't know that any other teacher rang the bell when Mr. Parker was principal. And at this time, I'd like to call upon Mr. Parker, who I think is probably the most respected of any person who ever taught in this community.
Thank you, Don. I feel very honored to have the privilege of speaking to you folks today to dedicate this memorial to the old school. I was going to relate something more of the history of the school. When we came here in 1938, there were many young people who had their grade 11 standing. And that was the end of the Depression, and there was no money, so they could go somewhere else to take their grade 12. So we decided to form a grade 12 class. And that work was perpetuated until the high school moved over to the new school on the west side of town. That was the period in the history of the school that was very exciting, because that was the period of the Second World War. It was exciting in many ways when the boys returned from overseas, having served in the different forces. But it was a period of deep grief, too, because there were many boys who went to this school and played on this ground who did not return. I'm going to mention 4 of them, not to sound too morbid, but to impress upon the young people who weren't here then that these were real people. They were flesh and blood people, the same as you young people are. I will mention 4 of them. One of them died on the soil of England while training to be an aviator. Another one became a tail gunner in a warplane. And he used to write to me regularly. And the last, he had made 14 sorties over Europe. I believe it was 14. And he had one more to make. He was going to make that the night on which he wrote this letter. And he said, "I'm very, very happy. I'm going to be married tomorrow." But his plane was shot down out of the flaming skies over Berlin that night, and he never was heard of again. Another boy gave his life. Can you still hear me? When his plane was shot down over the Mediterranean. and it sank into the Mediterranean Sea, never to be heard of again. And a fourth one that I'm going to mention joined the American forces, and he was killed fighting in the South Seas against the Japanese. Now, I mention those four boys not to leave out many others who had the same experience. And the reason I point them out to you today is that we have come to dedicate this cairn to the memory of the old school which they left. What did they do for us? They enabled us to live in peace and safety in the greatest country in the world. I feel deeply honored, as I said before, to take part in this dedication. And now we have officially dedicated this cairn in memory of all the things that were good that came out of the school which once stood here. Thank you very much.
I'm from a family of 7 who are all here today, and we attended the school. All of us went from grade 1 to grade 11, and I'm the best part of the family. I want you to know that before we go any farther. But our family are 7 here today, and we're scattered, you might say, practically all over Canada. The farthest one east is from Nipigon, and the farthest one west is from Vancouver, and there's only one left in Manitoba. The oldest boy is 86 years old, and the youngest one is 75, and we decided we better be here because this might be the last time we'll all be in one place. Thank you.
Credit to this school for a very promising and rewarding career. I spent 13 years in this school. You know, there are only 12 grades, but I spent 13 in it. I liked it so well.
To remember the pioneers, trustees, and teachers who their combined efforts and faithful service helped the school to persevere and succeed. To express the gratitude of many students who received an education in this place. As a constant and abiding reminder to us that we shall tell succeeding generations the story of the old school and its historical significance in our community. Let's bow together as we pray. Which motivated community leaders of the past to early recognize the importance of adequate facilities for the educating of children and youth. We acknowledge with gratitude the diligent instruction of the many dedicated teachers who over the years took their places in these classrooms and in administration. We recognize the giftedness and abilities which the students displayed who have gone out from this school to take their places in society as farmers and housewives, doctors and educators, in business and in labor. We, therefore, set up and dedicate this cairn today as a perpetual memorial to the cause of education in our community. And when succeeding generations shall ask the meaning of these stones, we shall, with gratitude to you, tell the story of the school which for so many years and for so many...